Hi, I'm thank you all for coming and waking up early this morning, joining us on the Creative Mornings Utrecht. And thank you, Creative Mornings, for giving me the opportunity to share the topic of dynamic identities. As she said, my name is Irene van Nes, and I'm a graphic designer based in Utrecht, working for myself at the moment. And today I hope to inspire you all on the topic of dynamic identities. Well, the subject of identities has interested me my whole life. As I have grown up around the world and being educated in international schools. I have got to know a lot of different cultures, identities, national identities, languages. All there are different ways, the richness of the world and of the world of identities. As a designer, I also continue this interest and love to build identities, love to help companies find out about their identities and help them communicate their identities. And as a designer, I also love to buy books as a source of inspiration. I've always, with my particular interest in dynamic identities, I've always been looking for a book that just holds only dynamic identities, not all type of identities. And I was never able to find one. So then one day, a year ago, I thought, well, why not make one so that everyone that is interested in it can also, get into this great world. So a year ago, I did that, and that's why we are all here today, because I made a book, this one, with a lenticular cover, dynamic as it is. Today I want to give you a little bit of an insight on that book. Well, we live in a living world. Our grandparents grew up in a very different world than we did, our parents did, and my son, of course, I'm really curious as to what world he will be living in, he will be growing up in. Things just continuously change, and we have to continuously adapt, and as we learn. Let's take a look at the way communication, for example, has developed. Ever since we could write, we start sending messages across a certain distance. When I was in Peru, I learned that the Incas already had their postal system. Within each distance of 1.4 kilometers, they had a person running from A to B and back, transporting messages or sometimes goods. Later, we, of course, asked animals to get us faster from A to B. And by the mid-1800s, with the Industrial Revolution, we were able to automize all of this and accelerate the speed of mail delivery even more. As to today, we are sending packages around the world by plane, which is quite fast, considering all of this history. But of course, we call it snail mail today, because with the invention of the phone came the fax. We were able to transmit for 6 minutes a message to the other side of the world, and nowadays, with just one press on the button, instantly someone at the other end of the computer, perhaps on the other end of the world, is able to receive a very long message or huge photos, documents. Also came all these social media or instant messaging, where we were able to quickly talk to each other, and nowadays, of course, with a smartphone in our pocket, we are all able to receive phone calls, but also messages, emails, and a lot more. The business of communication has changed over the years. The function of a phone is no longer just a call. Today, with our phone, we can have a flashlight, we can make photos, it has a camera, and the telecom industry is functions through internet with WhatsApp and whatnot. Also, the whole system of postal service has changed. With internet came people buying things through internet. Online shopping has, of course, changed the postal system from document delivery to package delivery, and also the function of a shop. When we are buying things on internet, we want more from a shop. We want an experience. We want perhaps that religion that we have, acquainted with and being addicted to. We want to go to this church and find like-minded people and listen to what is being preached about this religion. So in this living world, we really need to see companies as living organisms. We need to see them as a person who continuously is learning and is adapting its beliefs. And this person has values, this person has goals, this person has a drive and a vision. And in the same way, these companies are also living identities, living entities, who adapt to different social or economic situations, or perhaps a technological breakthrough. Of course, there are many companies who just have a very static identity. Perhaps they have changed over the years. Perhaps they have changed over the years with a few tweaks here and there, but some of them just stay the same. It works. But will it work? Does it always work? And is it the best option? So many businesses make the mistake of thinking, oh, we need an identity. Oh, we got to have a graphic designer and got to make them a logo. And then that's that. Well, building a brand is so much more than just a logo. There's so much more around it. And also the field of graphic design is also changing. With the shift from print to screen, a lot more is possible. There's a lot more possibilities this new technology is giving us. So we live in a living world with living organizations who need living brands. And a living brand asks for a dynamic identity. So what is a dynamic identity, you may ask? Well, what is an identity? Many people, like I said before, there's a logo. But in my opinion, there are 6 components that form an identity. You see them here. Logo is one of them, and there are 6 others. And together they formed a system that builds the identity. So in order to create room for flexibility, we need to be able to play with these different components. We need to be able to have variables as an input. Say, for example, a company which is all about color, Pantone, if their identity has the color being able to fill in with all the different variables, immediately you know that this business is all about color. Recently, or a few years ago at least, they opened up a hotel in Brussels, and they have their word mark, and the iconic chip has been changed into the shape of a house, and this is the container that holds the whole world, the whole colorful world of Pantone. City of Melbourne does it in the same way, but not only plays with color, it also plays with graphic elements. So it opened up 2 components already. Yet having the iconic M that stays very recognizable, and with all its iterations, it's able to show the diversity of Melbourne, of the city of Melbourne. So we could say that the more components hold different variables, the more dynamic the identity becomes. But very important, a brand always needs to stay recognizable. So you always need to fixate one thing, at least. And with that, you need to find the right balance between consistency and change. One of the oldest, or maybe the first dynamic identity, is MTV. We all know it, we all grew up with it. And for 30 years, MTV has fixated the shape and the position of the letter M and TV, but let the rest go. So it could be filled in with photography, with many different styles of illustrations. It could be an animation, it could be a 3D world, anything really. And all these iterations serve to strengthen only the youthful brand of MTV. Another one, a good example is, or a simple example is AOL. AOL has fixated its word mark, and behind that there's a whole platform that can be filled in with, well, in this case, a whole database on artwork created by, they asked different artists to deliver artwork. And in this manner, the identity becomes a platform for artists and helps to add on to the contemporary feel of the brand. This is a great example of DNA. The DNA in my book, I have categorized 6 different chapters, so 6 different types of dynamic identities. AOL being a wallpaper, because there's a wallpaper behind it, and MTV and City of Melbourne, a container. And this is an excellent example of DNA, where you see here literally a toolbox has been created for this hairdresser studio in Barcelona with different faces and different hairdos, and with this DNA they are able to create different faces all the time. And of course it can be added upon, you know, and next year maybe with new fashions we can have different hairdos. So it can also adapt to time. So up to now I've shown you identities where there's predetermined input, which obviously leads to predetermined output or controlled output. But what if we want to lose a little bit of control? Because isn't that what living is all about? We don't really know what will come tomorrow, what tomorrow will bring us. So take, for example, Google. What started with they just wanted to let all the people know that these 2 men that were working at Google wanted to tell people that they were going to Burning Man festival. They thought, oh, actually that's quite interesting, because they adjusted their identity just to tell that they were going to this festival. And nowadays the identity has become a festival of, a celebration of festivals, with just this Google Doodle formula, which is the order of a few colors and the shape of the original logo. Google is able to adjust its logo in any manner, and whatever festival is being celebrated, whatever day of the year it is, they can always do something with it. Some are better than others, but it's an interesting concept. What if an identity was a form of speech? This Nicolai Kunsthal, designed by Scandinavian Design Lab, has given a Kunsthal, which is placed in a former church, a voice to speak with, a quote, which it can say anything. It is said by Nicolai Kunsthal, but anything can be said. The basis of their concept, because they are in a former church, they are using biblical quotes as a basis, but replacing the word God with art, which gives you these results. But next to that, they can let that go, and they can say anything they want in all their communication, and that way the Nicolai Kunsthal can speak to its audience, saying anything they want. Another one is the Museum of Art and Design, which initials spell the word mad, and just fixating this font, they are able to say anything as long as the word mad is in the sentence. This way they don't even have to really place a logo really forced on the bottom of the left or right corner or the top, anywhere. They're speaking with their identity. Their identity gives them the possibility to talk. Now there are many museums that obviously have a dynamic identity. It is also a very dynamic organization with all its changing exhibitions and different flows and styles over time. It's a logical choice. Here's another one, the New Museum, which really communicates this whole changing exhibitions within its identity. So you have the New Museum, and between that there is a space, because their house also is a space, which is placed in the 235 Bowery, New York, but they are also, with this system, able to communicate their opening days, different exhibitions, anything really, and also make statements with it. They are the New Youthful Museum, they are the New Blank Museum, and within all of their communications they can say the New Audio Tour Museum, and at the toilet it says New Toilet Museum. It makes the toilet even a museum within a museum. At their entrance they have a digital board, which every second of the day different things can be filled in with this. Say, for example, what if every visitor that enters the museum gets their name placed in there? Then it becomes the New Irene Museum. You know, it really changes the whole idea of museum. It gives it so much more possibilities. So letting the identity being influenced by external information, external data, we live in a world of data, why not use it? We can get generated output, we can get living output. At least I believe it leads to a lot more living results. Take, for example, this identity, BOCAD University, which is an art institute in Canada. And the designer was inspired by the pixel-like windows and let the identity really become a display window for all of its students. Every year they have different students which they ask to make artworks that can fill the identity. And that way, over time, a whole library is being created, which is actually a mirror of the world of art in that recorded time. And culture also. What if the identity of the largest online encyclopedia is able to inform us about the dependability of this information? What if every page of the Wikipedia is able to collect data that in some way can tell us, can give us a measurement of its quality? And what if an identity is generated by movement? This identity for a restaurant has recorded all the different movements of the different people that are working in the museum, in the restaurant, and overlapping it all, you can really see the blood flowing in this place from and to the heart, and the heart in this case being the kitchen. And you can also see, maybe in the morning there is no movement, and in the evening there is a lot of movement. You can see when it's a busy day and when it's not a busy day. What if the identity was generated by time? I mean, would work excellently, for an online store which sells watches. It's all about time, so why not make a logo a clock? They've actually also, here you see it working, they have actually also made an app of this clock, so you can really use it as a clock. So in this way, a logo is not only a logo or an identity, it has a function. What if the identity is feeded by tweets? This identity tracks all the conversation about this moving image and digital art festival and lets it flow through a certain grid and creating this identity. Esquire, what if it's generated by sound? If you are, for example, this is a magazine, but if you are, for example, a radio station, it's about sound, or perhaps a sound engineer, or you let your logo be influenced by sound. You have many different data, intonation, accents, all these different ways of measuring, and you can use this data to have different visual outcomes. And what if identity is generated by weather? This Noordkin is one of the most northern peninsulas of Europe, and it's really cold and windy many times of the year. So if their identity is somewhat a weather station, and you can really see what is the actual weather on that day. As you see, the possibilities of creating a dynamic identity are endless, and modern technology will help us continue. It will continue to develop, so we also have to see what opportunities those gave us. In my research, I have found that there are many sectors who have embraced the concept of dynamic identities. For example, the creative industry, many museums, as I said before, because of their changing environment, but also many media and entertainment, of course, already busy working in this moving and interactive world, and also many forward-thinking research and education institutes. But some of sectors are missing. They're tailing behind. For example, I was not able to find any in the financial sector or any in the insurance organization. And it got me thinking, why not? I mean, they are also living in this dynamic world, and they should also be dynamic organizations, living organizations. Well, a year ago, I think I was working on a big rebranding of a Dutch company, and they wanted to patent their identity, and So these people were busy patenting, and of course we designed a dynamic identity. And then I learned that apparently it's quite difficult to patent dynamic identity. So what? Should progressive companies and designers wait until these lawmakers have caught up? Well, I don't think so. I mean, we shouldn't be afraid of not being able to patent. We should, you know, the law world will catch up someday. So we live in this living world, and I think the future will be more dynamic than ever. So thank you all very much for listening. I've made a book. If you want to know more, please look into it. We will have it with me. I have a few exemplars you can look into. They will be on the back there. You can also buy it today. And I do keep a blog because, of course, it's an ongoing process. And so I want to update you all. So please do look at Facebook Dynamic Identities and like it. That way I can update you on new work, and you can, of course, also update me on your new work.